Hey Knicks fans, the Knicks are 14-9 on the season with Toronto up next. We got a fun show for you guys. Defensive issues, Mitchell Robinson back early, concerning post-game comments, Juan Soto destination. I kid. Let's go. Let's talk Knicks.
Let's run that intro.
Basketball. You're listening to the Knicks Nation podcast, where we've got all your Knicks needs covered.
Puts up a three. Bang! Bang! He ties the game!
Now, live from the city that never sleeps, here are your hosts, Anthony and Chris.
Knicks Nation, what's going on? Welcome in to another Sunday evening Knicks podcast, live podcast. Appreciate every single one of you hopping in here. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, please leave us a rating. Really helps out the channel. New York Knicks are 14-9 on the season after just getting beaten by the Detroit Pistons in Madison Square Garden. Some things to talk about after that game, some post-game comments that we found a little bit, bold, and rightfully so. I think they're true statements from Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson. Chris, what's going on, man? How about those Knicks?
Them Knicks are pretty good, man. Even with the loss to Detroit, I'm feeling pretty good about our Knicks. Obviously, I want to touch on those post-game comments made, but doing good. How you doing tonight, Ant?
Doing good. It's always fun talking Knicks. Haven't gotten the chance to do this in a couple weeks because the New York Knicks have been playing on Sundays, but obviously normally we're live on Sundays. And once again, appreciate every single one of you hopping here. So, Chris, Detroit Pistons, obviously the Knicks went 3-1 on the week from last Sunday. Good week, 14-9 on the season. But then the Pistons game came along. Karl Anthony Towns out, campaigned out. The return of Precious Achiuwa a couple of games ago, and he showed you exactly what we were missing in that Pistons game. Love to see him back, seeing Mitchell Robinson back on the bench. He seems like he's close. He's giving us some updates on Twitter like, I just got great news. Don't know what that is, but, he's a troll. But, yeah, Chris, that Detroit Pistons game, man, I mean, touch on it briefly, and then we can, get to the post-game comments, but the slow starts are a problem for this basketball team.
Yeah, we've seen it, and we've seen it with teams that, the Knicks should be beating. And again, I know the Knicks are trying to work on things, trying to figure things out, but we're getting close to that magic number, that magic number we were giving them 25, 30 games or so. And, you got to start to wonder, will they figure these things out? They started slow. Again, another night where the Knicks just couldn't shoot the three ball as well as we've seen them shoot in the past. And just a little bit of inconsistency from some guys that looked like they were heating up in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. But look, one thing we've seen in the NBA so far this season is that there are no nights off. It does not matter who you're playing. And especially being the Knicks and at MSG, teams will show up to play the Knicks no matter what.
Yeah, they will. And look, Knicks have had slow starts against these bottom echelon teams in the NBA, but it's no excuses, man. The slow starts and defensively has pretty much been the main issue. Obviously, the New York Knicks are scoring. We struggled from three in that game, but you look at the broader picture, you kind of take the wider lens. Obviously, it was a good week for the squad, but that game, I think the Knicks kind of felt like, all right, we can give Cat a couple more days off to rest his knee. Don't really need him against the Detroit Pistons. We can get through the Detroit Pistons. But look, credit to the Pistons. They played their ass off, man. They played hard. But, yeah, Chris, defensively, we got some stats that we'll give you guys regarding OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges together. And it's defensively is really the problem for this team in these losses. And it's whether or not you really think it'll get better. That Precious Achiuwa is back. I know guys have been like in and out the lineup. Like, it just sucks that Cat and Campaign were out, and it's like damn, man, I really want everyone to be healthy at the same time. But yeah, Chris, defensively, especially in the fourth quarters, haven't really been good for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, that's been a big sticking point, and there's a fourth quarter stat that I'll bring up a little bit later on once we start to discuss the defense. But
Yeah.
I do think a big part of it is also what you just mentioned. We just got back Precious, feeling good. Nice to see Precious out there, and he's playing well. But then we lose Campaign, and now we also didn't have Cat this last game as well. So
Yeah.
I think it's a small piece of it. You want to have all these guys together, just kind of figure things out. But so far that hasn't happened for us. It seems like we get one guy back and another guy goes out. So hopefully we can get the whole squad soon, including Mitch. Like you mentioned, he said he got good news. Maybe that's his Christmas wish. Who knows? But yeah, man, I think defense is the biggest issue, and it's just kind of weird, man. It's kind of weird again because something we thought the Knicks would not have as big of an issue with as they've had this season so far with the players they got out there.
Yeah, and in that game, Chris, the Pistons game, Jericho Sims got benched. So this is now two straight games that he's gotten benched. I think he got benched last game, just silly turnover. And then versus the Pistons, tried an ISO, lost the ball. And Tom Thibodeau just was like, I had enough. And I said it on the post game, like the situation with Jericho is kind of like strange to me because the Knicks, even though Tom Thibodeau, obviously he doesn't care about benching him. Like if he has a bad play, a couple of bad possessions, he will be benched for the entire game. But then they keep going back to him. Obviously, Jericho Sims has had some good moments this year. He's a bigger body. He's been rebounding okay. His defense at the rim has been good, but he got benched versus the Pistons. In comes Ariel Hukporti, the shiny new toy who we've obviously been wanting to see more and more and more and more. And I don't know how you feel, Chris, but every time Hukporti comes in, he just provides a spark. And you just see it with him, man. It's just natural with him. He's a baller.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. Hukporti, look, he comes in there, he's electric, right? He's just giving all out effort. And look, I get it. It's probably a different mindset when it comes to Jericho, who's starting the game and expecting to be playing, big minutes. Probably don't want to go out there and just go pedal to the metal versus Hukporti, who's probably like, these are probably all the minutes I'm gonna get, so let me just go all out. But in saying that, I was surprised that Jericho Sims played 6 minutes against Detroit. I thought it was like, okay, look, you had that turnover, similar to what we saw, right? He had that jump pass turnover, it got benched. Then in this game, tried to go ISO, got benched. But you figured with Cat being out, Jericho Sims will be back on the floor at some point in the game.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. That actually surprised me very much. But Hukporti going out there, he was 4 for 4. Had 9 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, played 15 minutes, and he gave you that effort you wanted and that energy. And when he's catching lobs, that sparks the other guys too, that gets them going, So I think that's something that you can't downplay when it comes to Hukporti.
Yeah, Hukporti's awesome, man. Appreciate every single one of you in the chat joining us here tonight. Buzzer beater, what's going on? See every single one of you in here. Darlene says we missed a lot of free throws. What's going on, Darlene? Yeah, Knicks are number one in terms of free throw percentage in the NBA, so it's kind of like an outlier that they missed, 11 free throws versus the Pistons. Otherwise, I would have gotten upset, but Chris, they're number one in the NBA in free throw percentage, so it's like, it happens, man. It happens.
Yeah, free throw shooting wasn't there for us against Detroit. We went 16 of 27 in a 9-point loss, which, look, if they hit their free throws, maybe we win that game by 1 or 2 points. But, hey, like you mentioned, Knicks are one of the better teams when it comes to shooting from the stripe. So, hopefully this is just an outlier.
Yes, hopefully. Buzzer Beater says we have to learn to win with an injured squad. Agreed. Guys have been in and out, but hopefully versus Toronto. And, the schedule is really lightening up here for the New York Knicks. Obviously, you wanted them to beat the Pistons at home. Cade Cunningham decided, You know, he's a superstar, man. He's a stud. And during that game, you know, we'll get to the defense, but just not good all around from this Knicks team. Got a couple of Huck Porty comments in here. Sims really getting fired now. This Rover says, El Figgy, can we please stop the Jericho Sims experiment? Every minute he's out there is scary. Get Huck Porty those minutes and he'll come up better each game. Nick Yak says the more Huck Porty plays with the rotation players, he will figure out his defense. Yeah, look. The thing is with everyone healthy, Chris, I don't know how much Jericho Sims will even play. And the Knicks have shown us in the past, even though Huck Porty has shown that he's a better player this year than Jericho Sims. I mean, I guess you can say that. I know probably some of the numbers don't really back it up, but Huck Porty's not really playing. But I think the Knicks have shown you that they just go right back to Jericho Sims. Tom Thibodeau isn't shy from doing that. But, you know, I mean, Jalen Brunson was even finding Ariel Huck Porty on lobs. And I've been wanting Jalen Brunson to find Jericho Sims on lobs. So that made me believe, like, maybe it's a Jericho Sims problem. Maybe he's not in the right spots in certain situations, and that maybe it's not Jalen Brunson, because Brunson has shown us this year that he is a floor general. He's changed his game. The assist numbers are up. I have a trivia question for Chris at the end that involves Jalen Brunson and the assist numbers, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, Chris, Huck Porty and Jalen Brunson even formed chemistry. But yeah, man, I mean, in terms of Jericho Sims, Chris, I don't know, man. The Knicks could just very well just go back to him versus the Raptors. But what I'm trying to say is when everyone is healthy, Precious, good, Cat, good, is Jericho Sims even going to play now with Precious back?
Yeah, I think his minutes would be going down no matter what. But one thing you did say that I was even thinking about was exactly what you mentioned as far as Jalen Brunson finding Huck Porty for lobs. How many times have we seen, you know, Jericho Sims run down the floor, you know, practically be wide open, and for whatever reason they just don't see him, or they don't get him the ball, or when they do see him, it's too late to give him the ball. So I find that kind of interesting as well. Maybe they just don't trust him. Maybe they don't trust his hands. You know, we've seen situations where Jericho just fumbles the ball, goes out of bounds. You know, these bad turnovers. It could be something as simple as that. Maybe there's just a hesitation there. So I think that's quite telling when it comes to Jericho Sims and what we saw once Huck Porty was out there versus Detroit. But yeah, man, I think once the Knicks get more healthy, obviously when Mitch comes back, but having Precious now, I think he's going to soak up a lot of Jericho Sims minutes. And, you know, I'm on the Huck Porty bandwagon, man. I want to see more of Huck Porty out there with these guys because, look, if Jericho's going to continue to play the way he has, and look, let's be real, Jericho held it down for a bit and was playing really good basketball.
Yeah, he has.
At least defensively. So
yeah,
you got to give him that. But maybe it's time to get Huck Porty out there and get more sparks like what we saw against Detroit.
He has. And Parrish in the chat, what's going on? Parrish brings up a good point. He says, like, Porty has splash plays, but Sims plays pick and roll defense, which kills us every single game. I wouldn't say Huck Porty is just like a splash player. When he came in the game versus the Pistons, he had a good help defense on Cade Cunningham, putting his hands up. He's a sneaky good defender around the rim too. I mean, you know, little things like that is what I'm noticing from Huck Porty. But yes, Parrish, Jericho Sims, pick and roll defense, especially his one-on-one defense where he can guard, you know, these smaller guards because he's quicker on his feet. And that's the upside of Jericho Sims. He's like 6'10", 6'11", but he has quick feet to, you know, get back to his man or, you know, pretty much guard these faster guards and recover. And that's why the Knicks keep going back to him. And look, Chris, like you said, he's been holding it down. But, you know, I don't know. Tom Thibodeau pulls a plug 2 games and he doesn't play. They got benched in the second half versus the Pistons. And Precious did a hell of a job there in that game as well. It's just unfortunately that the Knicks just couldn't pull through. All right, Chris, you want to get to this post-game sound from the squad. So
yes.
After the game, Mikal Bridges spoke to the media, and here is what Mikal Bridges had to say about the Knicks' defense.
Where do you think you guys are defensively at this point?
Not good. I think we pick and choose when, and we ain't that good to be able to just pick when we want to play defense. I don't think any team's that good when they just pick when they want to play defense. So, I think it starts with me as well. Just gotta be more vocal and lead by example as well. But it's all of us.
You see it as fixable stuff?
So he says, not good, not good. We got to stop picking and choosing when we want to play defense. And then he also in that clip said he has to be better. So Mikel obviously knows that he has to be better defender. And picking and choosing when to play defense, Chris. Obviously, he put himself in that conversation, but some interesting comments from Mikel there in the post game.
Yeah. That's kind of like, that's something that I've been thinking about pretty much going back maybe 10 or so games. It just seems like, to me, when it comes to the fourth quarter with the Knicks, you'll see more effort. You see more of like that grittiness. Like what's the word that I want to say? You can kind of see like the opponents feeling the Knicks more on defense, or at least that's what it seems like to me. I just feel like I always had this feeling in the back of my mind that, the Knicks, maybe rightfully so, you could say, having OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges out there at times playing together, that they probably think they're this defensive juggernaut, along with Josh Hart, that they could just turn it on at a snap, just we're going to shut this team down in a close game and we're going to win it in the fourth. What I think you're seeing a lot of is, letting these teams hang around second, third quarter. And then come fourth quarter, these teams are already juiced up and they're like, we could score on these guys at will. It doesn't matter what they do. And then teams just carry that over. I think the Knicks got to find a way to turn it on and leave it on from the beginning of the game and not wait for, specific moments to turn it on. So I think with Mikal Bridges letting that be known, maybe he's just speaking for himself, or maybe he's noticing things, but I think that's telling when it comes to the defensive woes the Knicks are having.
It is. And look, Josh Hart is having a career year offensively. I wanted to bring up Josh Hart for a second. Career year offensively, shooting the ball well. His mid-range has been amazing. His rebounding has been amazing. But defensively, especially that game versus the Pistons, I personally think Hart is having a subpar year defensively. It's one-on-one defense. It was just too many closeouts versus the Pistons. His closeouts versus the Pistons, Chris, were bad. I mean, he lingers too much around the paint, especially during that game. And I really took a deep dive in the video footage after the game, and Josh Hart was caught a lot, just lingering. And when he's on the floor, opponents shoot more efficiently, plus 5%, wonky stat. But I'm not ragging on Josh Hart because he hasn't been the issue defensively, but I'm just pointing out during the Pistons game. It's just things I notice. Sometimes he just hovers out there. Closeouts are not where they need to be. But offensively, he's having such a great year. I kind of feel like, he can give a little bit more effort on those closeouts, because especially that Pistons game, I didn't like what I saw from Hart defensively.
Yeah, and I think that can pretty much go for a lot of the Knicks. We could, they could close out on shooters a lot better.
Yeah.
There's no surprise, especially when the Pistons, I believe, shot 50% from three the entire game.
Yeah.
We've seen that one too many times. And I think I think that's part of it, whether it's just reaction time or whatever the case is. I don't think it's like missing a rotation or anything like that. I just simply think at times they just kind of ball watch a little bit. But, going back to the Knicks and their defensive woes, I mentioned thinking that the Knicks go into the fourth quarter with more energy, more grit, and does it translate to better defense per se? No, it doesn't. I have a stat here where the opponent, the New York Knicks ranking in fourth quarter scoring, their opponent's fourth quarter scoring is literally bottom 3. They're 28 out of 30th, with the opponent scoring an average of 29.9 points in the fourth quarter this season. That's, with the Los Angeles Lakers and the Memphis Grizzlies being worse and Chicago Bulls being above us. So, I mean, I think it's part of it. Teams are just getting way too confident throughout the games, and come fourth quarter, then the Knicks probably try to turn it on, but it's too late by then.
Yeah, and look, fourth quarters defensively, look, that is crazy. You're giving up a lot of points in the fourth quarter, and that's crunch time, man. And look, the Knicks are 14-9. This is, just us pointing out, obviously, their glaring issue has been defense. They're playing amazing. Obviously, Cat is in the MVP conversation. He's finally in top 5 MVP. We just wanted to see him out there versus Detroit, but hopefully he can get healthier. And look, they're playing their number one offense in the league. Like, offense is not the issue. They're breaking records on offense. They're playing extremely well on that end. Obviously, we're speaking about their defense and how they can improve, how we think they can improve, Chris. And I have here the Knicks' best defensive lineup that has played 80-plus possessions together. It has Josh Hart in it. So even though I was kind of getting on Josh Hart with the closeouts and wanting him to be just more aggressive in closing out and contesting, Jalen Brunson, Miles McBride, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Karl-Anthony Towns. So that lineup has played 81 possessions together. The second best defensive lineup with 124 possessions, Cam Payne, Miles McBride, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Karl-Anthony Towns. So I say that, 2 different lineups, right?
Yeah.
And if in those lineups, Josh Hart is a 3, he's playing with 2 smaller guards. And if you notice, Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby are separated. So that's interesting because together they're not playing team defense where they need to be. And OG Anunoby is just on another tier. But Mikal Bridges somehow just can't get it together in terms of in the same line as OG Anunoby defensively. So in those 2 lineups, they're separated. And in those 2 lineups, Bridges is in one, OG Anunoby's in one, and Josh Hart's in both of them, and with the two guards, excuse me. So I found that interesting, Chris. You would think Wingstop together would be this dominant defensive team, dominant defensive lineup, but separated, they're better.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie, that's crazy because look. Again, going back to the beginning, once we acquired Mikal Bridges, you start thinking, man, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. We've said it many times. You got Mikal Bridges on one side, you got OG Anunoby at the other. We're going to shut people down, and it hasn't played out that way. And then you give us this stat here, 81 possessions with Anunoby out there, minus Mikal, and then 124 possessions, which is the second best, with Bridges out there and no OG. So, I mean, look, what it tells me and what I hope is that OG and Mikal are still trying to figure out how to play together on the defensive side of the ball. I hope that's what it is, and I really hope it's not that, they just don't click when it comes to the defensive side, because I think they're 2 really smart players, high IQ. Obviously, they can both defend at high levels, but they got to figure it out, man. They got to figure it out. I don't think anybody out there thinks they're not going to figure it out. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and look, as I was looking at the numbers before the pod, and obviously you want those 2 to be in the lineup together. Obviously, you figure Mikal, okay, has taken some steps these last few games. I go back to the Detroit game in that third quarter. He had a big game in the big quarter in the third quarter, defensively and offensively. But it's interesting that separated. The defense is better with those 2 separated. And It's interesting that in those 2 lineups, you still have Karl-Anthony Towns and you still have Josh Hart in those lineups. And the obviously the similarities is McBride, Hart, and Towns. Both of those lineups defensively, they're good. And the differences are Bridges and Brunson and Cam Payne and Jalen Brunson. So thought it was interesting. It's just interesting how it's separated. They're playing better defense, but It's interesting how Josh Hart is more comfortable at the 3 with the 2 smaller guards defensively. And maybe, you know, look, Tom Thibodeau's tinkering with the different lineups. And obviously he's, experimenting with different lineups. And you're seeing him play more and more, when Campaign is healthy with the guys. And, they feed off Campaign's energy. Love that guy.
Yep.
But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I think it'll balance itself out, hopefully, with the starting 5.
And it's nice seeing Towns in both of those,
Yeah.
A lot of people, they rag on Towns, opponents having a high field goal percentage in the paint when Towns is out there. But look, 81 possessions, best lineup has Towns in it. And the second best also has Towns in it at the 5. So that's promising for us as well.
Yes, sir. Disc Rover in the chat. Wingy Hut Jr. is about to be out of business if this continues. Look, Anunoby's been on a whole different stratosphere. It's, for some reason, as I just stated, when Anunoby's on the bench and Bridges is in there defensively, the Knicks are okay. And when Bridges is on the bench and Anunoby's in there, the Knicks are a better defensive team. So it's like, it's a weird, wonky stat. I know, but hey, I just wanted to get that to you guys and whatnot. All right, Chris. So slow starts is also an issue for this basketball team, and Jalen Brunson spoke about the slow starts becoming a trend. And here is Jalen Brunson.
Start the other night and 13-2 tonight. Anything connective there that you guys could correct?
Yeah, the game starts at 7:30. We gotta be ready at 7:30.
The game start at 7:30. Wow, I didn't know that, Chris. They start at like 7:39. If you want to be exact, I don't know why the NBA just doesn't start at the exact time and always have to be like 7:39. But the guys are frustrated, man. Mikal Bridges said, we can't be picking and choosing on defense. We have to come out with aggression. It starts with me as well. Jalen Brunson speaking on the start times. It starts at 7:30. You got to be ready at 7:30. Chris, slow starts have been an issue for this basketball team. I have a stat here from Ian Begley. Knicks have trailed Charlotte and Detroit a combined 29-6 to start their last 2 games. On Thursday, Jalen Brunson scored 19 in the first quarter to get the Knicks back in the game. They didn't get the same bounce back in the first quarter versus the Detroit Pistons. Brunson has been awesome, Chris. Even versus Orlando, I go back to that Orlando game. Look, they went up like 8-0 to start the game. But slow starts, like, is it just something like they're them not getting up for their opponent and just thinking that they can just, coast to a victory, and then they turn it up in the second or third quarter and they're like, oh shoot, we gotta actually start to play here. I don't know. It's like wonky.
That's kind of like the vibe that I get at times, especially when it's a team like, Detroit or the Hornets at that. It's teams. Do you think maybe the Knicks are kind of looking past them? I'd say maybe they're just like, we'll start off, minimal effort, but then they get punched in the face and they're like, oh wait, hold up, we're down 18 in the first. Let's try to turn it up now. I think they are kind of getting in trouble when it comes to that. It just seems that way, and I hope that's something that they can kind of get past and just show up for no matter who's out there, because you're not going to win many basketball games like that. You're letting teams come in, they get hot, they get confident, and next thing you know, you're in a dogfight and you're trying to turn it on offense and defense, and sometimes that doesn't work out in our favor, like we saw against Detroit.
Yeah, the Pistons, look, they shot lights out, man. I think Malik Beasley shot 7 of 10 threes, and, the pick and roll defense was an issue. A lot of switching on, they were running Jalen Brunson through pick and rolls, and, once Cade was seeing he was getting mismatched with Jalen Brunson, he was just hitting dagger after dagger in that game. But slow starts, I mean, Brunson says we start at 7:30. We got to be ready at 7:30. I mean, these are look, frustrating post game comments, obviously from the guys, but you want to hear that, right? I mean, you want to kind of get a reality check, Chris. I mean, things have been kind of like coasting, and 6 straight in MSG, and this Knicks team is still playing extremely well, but Pistons came in here and kind of gave you a reality check a little bit. Like, look, if you're not ready, we can come into your home court and beat you. You're without Cat, you're without some guys, but so what? We don't care. And look, man, Knicks got to be ready when that tip-off is happening. You want to see the Knicks come out with a bang. You want to see them, like the Denver game, come out with a bang, just motivated on all facets of the game, offensively and defensively. And I know it's the NBA, man. I mean, it's hard. You see the Pistons on the schedule, you're like, Pistons, we can rest Cat, rest Campaign, give him another game. We can get these guys. And then a team comes into your gym, shoots the lights out, and then you find yourself at halftime like, oh, I got to get it together. And then you're trying to climb a mountain, trying to climb that wall, and then it's too late. And then you start to get frustrated. Josh Hart getting thrown out the game. That referee, by the way, garbage. But yeah, you get what I'm saying, Chris. It's hard to climb that mountain.
Yeah, not only that, look, like you said, it's tough to climb that mountain, and the amount of energy you need to expend, to make a comeback like the Knicks did. I believe the Knicks, they came back. The Knicks came back, and they were in this game. And then again, whether you want to say they just ran out of steam, which could have been, or just simply the defense just wasn't there for us late in this game versus Detroit, these are things that they have to learn from. I'm not going to say it was a good loss because it wasn't, but I think it's good to hear guys like Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges acknowledge that, we have issues. Defense is an issue. We got to get it right. And that's what you want to hear, right? Because it means they know, they're aware of it. And I think this group is going to figure it out. They're going to work towards figuring it out. And let's hope it happens sooner than later because, like I mentioned, we were saying 25, 30 games, and that's not to say they have to do it at that time. But also, we got to be real and realize that the Knicks, are over 500. They're still playing well. Best offense, I believe, still at this point in the NBA. So we just want that defense, not to be number one, but maybe top 10, maybe top 15 even.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get there. Hopefully we'll get there. Nick Yak says slow starts and a bad fourth is a terrible combo. Another thing defensively, Chris, is teams are running on the Knicks, even on made baskets. They're catching the Knicks on their heels, and they're taking advantage of it. Like if a Knick player is slow to get back or falls on the floor and, is slow to get up, teams are recognizing that, running, moving the basketball, finding the open shot, and it's just been killing the Knicks, the transition defense. So that has to improve. But I feel like ultimately it will, and I think we will become that top 15 good defensive team in the NBA. Obviously, we have Precious back now. When we get Cat and Campaign back and just get the guys back is all I want to see. Yeah. So we can, start to build another winning streak. But I thought Precious Achiuwa, Chris, in the Pistons game, I thought, look, he's big for us. You saw him in that game with a lot of rim protection, a lot of blocks, and had the sequence with JB. So you get to see Precious more and more. The thing I love about Precious is you can switch more with Precious in the lineup on defense because he can guard those smaller guys. So it's easier for the Knicks on defense with Precious in the lineup. So as time goes on, you're going to see more minutes with Precious and Mikal and OG, and it will improve is what I'm saying.
I agree. Because look, like we mentioned before, Precious comes in, Campaign is out, then Cat is out. We just got to get all these guys healthy, get them on the court, and they got to get used to playing with Precious now out there. But just like you mentioned, Jericho Sims being able, guard guys one-on-one, having quick feet, that's literally Precious and probably even better than Jericho Sims at that. And we saw it against Detroit, Precious being a force on the boards as well, giving you a first, second, and third effort at times. So look, I think it's obviously going to get better for us defensively. Right now it just stinks, and it shows a lot. It shows a lot, especially losing the way they did to Detroit. But all in all, look, the Knicks are in a good spot.
They are. They are. All right. So prior to the Pistons game, the Knicks have been blowing out teams. So this is from Mike Vorkanov, I think is how you pronounce his name. Excuse me if I botched that. But one way to check how good a team is by looking at how frequently it is blowing out its opponents. The leaders this season are not surprising, but one team below is blowing away the rest of the field, the New York Knicks. New York Knicks led by 20 plus for 20% of the possessions. Sheesh. Wow. So, the blowout win versus Charlotte, the blowout win versus even the Charlotte game, we started slow in that game. The blowout win versus Orlando, the Pelicans, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Wizards. When the Knicks are winning, obviously the Charlotte game in Charlotte where we're on by 1 point is kind of like the outlier in this is what I'm trying to say. But when they're winning, they're blowing out teams. And everything is hitting on all cylinders. And, it's a good sign. Ultimately, it's a good sign, And I think this, obviously, blowouts it's not going to happen all the time, Chris. Like, you're going to have these games where it's going to be tight in the fourth quarter. And you brought up the stat where defensively the Knicks have to get it together in the fourth quarter, crunch time. They have to get it together, and I think they will. But blowouts are always fun. The game's over by the third quarter. And, yeah. So when you see this, what do you think?
I mean, obviously, I like it. Yeah. I like that the Knicks are, obviously, when the Knicks are rolling, they're number one in the NBA on offense for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I want to see the Knicks get better at the closer games, because, when things start to get tighter at the end of the season, when playoffs comes around, you're probably most likely not going to be blowing teams out, right?
Exactly. Yep.
It's playing a bad team that just so happened to sneak into the playoffs or something. You're probably not going to be blowing out teams. It's going to be close games, maybe 5-point separation, things like that. So while it's still early, that's where I want to see the Knicks get more, get better at, playing in those high intensity types of games, high leverage where every possession down the stretch counts, and getting better at closing those types of games out, something that obviously the Knicks haven't been too great at. But we've seen it every now and then, such as with the Hornets game that you mentioned that we won by a point, So it'll get better. It will get better, but obviously blowouts are fun. Blowouts are fun when we're the ones winning.
The thing about, this season is like, it's strange because when we lose, opponents are shooting lights out, right? So, and the Knicks are actually good at defending the three this year. They're only allowing 36.8% from behind the arc. That's 22nd in no, I shouldn't say they're good. Excuse me, I retract my statement. They are 22nd in the NBA in opponent 3-point percentage. So, I looked at that stat wrong. So, yeah, opponents running through pick and rolls and moving that rock, and it's allowing the Knicks to just not play well in terms of guarding the three. And, that's a stat where you want to improve and you hope that improves. And that's one I'm just going to continue to look at. But, yeah, just wanted to get you guys that stat. Appreciate every single one of you in here. Smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hopping on Sunday evening talking New York Knicks. Hit some of these comments, Chris. What we got here? Dorkosaurus, what's going on? Kolek and Daddier got to play more, especially against teams that are young themselves. Chris, I agree. Daddier, I think if the Knicks needed anything, like in a perfect world, it'll be that extra wing off the bench.
Yeah.
And I think Daddier can be that. Suck that, he's been, it doesn't suck, but we could have used him in a couple of these games and these blowouts to like give him an opportunity. But he's been in the G League, which is a good thing. You want to get him run in the G League and so he can play more. But Kolek, especially in that Pistons game, He played in the first half, played well, had a steal, hit a 3, and Tom Thibodeau didn't play him in the second half. Got funky with his rotations, but I think Payne has kind of shut off the colic water because Payne has been playing so amazing and Deuce has been playing absolutely incredible. So there's just no spot for colic, really. But I guess what Dorkosaurus is saying is when guys are hurt, play these guys.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Play them.
I agree. I mean, I don't know why Kolick didn't get more burn against Detroit. That's a question I wish I could ask Tibbs, because when, and again, he, like you mentioned, hit a 3, got a steal, was playing pretty good. It wasn't like he was like, it wasn't a Jericho Sims situation, basically, right? He wasn't just screwing up out there and giving you a reason to bench him.
Yeah.
So, I get it. He's a rookie. Obviously, we all know Tibbs has that stigma as well that he doesn't play young guys, but in a game like that, why not have Kolick out there more?
Yeah, so something we noticed. Dorkosaurus says the minutes catch up with them in the fourth quarter, plain and simple. Yeah, that could lead to poor defense in the fourth quarter. But look, Mikal is playing a lot out there, leading the NBA right now in minutes per game, and Tom Thibodeau is taking advantage of his Iron Man, Mikal Bridges. But, look, Tibbs and the substitutions when we were winning, I really wasn't worried about anything because we were winning in blowout fashion and most of our starters were getting rest in the fourth, especially JB and Cat. One thing I do notice, Chris, is the Knicks are being very careful with Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns' minutes. I say that, and Brunson played 44 versus the Pistons, but prior to that, the Knicks have been very careful with his minutes and especially Karl-Anthony Towns. They don't want to, extend Karl-Anthony Towns that much. But OJ Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart, those are your guys that are playing a lot. So they're protecting their stars in JB and in Cat is one thing I noticed.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. You want to save JB, obviously, even though for this game he was questionable initially. Still played against Detroit, and like you mentioned, 40+ minutes. But look, obviously, with Tibbs, he plays to win, and if he thinks he has the opportunity, he runs the guys out there. It's nothing we don't know, nothing that should shock anybody at this point in time. But yeah, I think it's to be expected. You should be saving guys like JB and Karl-Anthony Towns. You don't want to run them out there. And I think more so Towns, right? Because he does have that injury history where he misses games. Kind of surprised OG isn't being kind of guarded the same way. But, maybe that's to come. He should. Absolutely. He should. Because, look, OG Anunoby obviously is very physical, plays a tough brand of defense. Falls on the floor a lot, makes me nervous, but if I'm the coaching staff, I'd probably want to give him but again, who are you gonna really throw out there until we get some more guys back, like Campaign, for instance, and then Precious obviously is back now, which I think will help. But yeah, I think it's smart. I think it's smart to rest JB and obviously Cat as well.
Yeah, so let's talk about Cat. So Karl-Anthony Towns has moved into the top 5 in the NBA.com MVP ladder.
Took way too long, in my opinion. Should have been there.
Karl-Anthony Towns is a stud. He is a bona fide superstar. And he is playing otherworldly this year for this Knicks team. Sucked that he couldn't get out there versus Detroit. Hopefully he's out there versus Toronto. But man, oh man, Chris. Karl-Anthony Towns has come in here and exceeded our expectations. I mean, all this crap we said about him prior to the trade, I got egg on my face. I'm sorry, man. This dude is a star. He is a bona fide star, man. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Look, he's shooting 45% from 3 this year. 45% from 3 this year, man. 86% from the free throw line. Averaging a double-double up there with the best. Numbers are amazing. Yeah, just wanted to shine some light on the man, Chris, because
Yeah.
he's
Shout out to Cat, man.
He's amazing, man.
Cat has like you mentioned, a lot of Knicks fans have egg in their face. I'm also one of them. You know, I kept talking about the contract.
I don't care no more.
Obviously, I thought I knew what Cat could do. You know, in the few games I saw, you know, when he's out there in Minnesota, highlights. But yeah, buzzer beater saying the soft label is gone. I agree, man. You know, I don't know if maybe we're getting a different version of Cat than what we saw in Minnesota, but man, this guy is amazing. There was questions about will he be able to play the 5? Will he be able to board enough? That's gone. That's out the window. You know, I think he's grabbing like 13 boards a game or something like that. Offensively, like you mentioned, 45% from 3 is insane from the 5 spot. And look, we're getting the best. I think we're getting the best version of Karl Anthony Towns yet. And I think it could get better, man. You know, the Knicks are the number 1 offense, but I think it can get even better.
Look, 25 points a game, 25.2 points a game to be exact. That's 12th in the NBA. 13.2 rebounds. That's second in the NBA behind Jokic. 3 assists per game. And you see in the Globetrotter stuff, obviously the pass to Mikal, which I really wanted him to convert that pass, man.
Underrated passer. I said it.
Oh, my goodness, man. He's embracing it, man. He's embracing New York. 53% from the field, 45% from 3. Like Buzzer Beater says, the soft label is gone.
Yeah.
Had that scruffle with Wagner versus their Magic. Had that turnaround.
I love that.
Turnaround, step back, fade away versus Wagner.
That was cold. That was cold.
He's got it, man. He's awesome. And we have ourselves another superstar on this team. And him and Jalen Brunson, the thing I love is JB is finding him with the pick and rolls. That pick and roll, Chris, is lethal. Yeah. As soon as Brunson takes the pick and roll from Cat is rolling or Cat is stepping back, and you got to respect it, man. But top 5 in MVP, man. He crept his way up there. It was about damn time that Cat got up there.
Overdue.
Yeah, Chris.
It was overdue.
Look, he's at every single rebound he's grabbing. He's gobbling up rebounds. He had 19 rebounds versus the Pelicans. And 2 blocks in his last 2 games. 2 blocks versus Magic, 2 blocks versus the Charlotte Hornets. So, Cat, if he can continue playing like this, he's gonna knock at that door for MVP, man. He is.
Yeah. I hope it continues. And he was sorely missed against Detroit, man. I guarantee that would have been a different outcome if Cat was out there.
Dorkosaurus, Cat soft apology forms going out tonight. That's the thing, like soft, hard, pause. Pause on that, man. This Rover says Bodega Cat is rock hard on God. Hey, yo, pause. I don't care, man. I mean, look, he's, like I said, he's exceeded my expectations, and he's such a talented basketball player. And you know, Minnesota misses him for sure. And I'm just happy that he's on the Knicks. And this is only year 1 of this core, right? Yeah. Which is the special thing, is he got here a day before training camp or the day of training camp. And you're seeing now that him and Jalen Brunson have this chemistry together, which is absolutely incredible. And it's only year 1 of this core. As time goes on, it will continue to just get better and better. But yeah, Cat and JB have a chance to do something really special this year, especially that duo is lethal. That duo is lethal.
Yeah. Look, and how can you not get excited? I mean, look, first year together, right? And already the number 1 offense in the NBA. I think that speaks volumes, obviously, for both JB, Cat, and the rest of the Knicks. And while I want to focus on this season, you can't help to think, man, once these guys gain even more and more chemistry, you know, next year, maybe the year after that as well, This team is going to be deadly, man. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Love you guys in the chat, man. Cat has a proper barber now. You see how his hairline got lined up earlier this week. Hey, he's in New York, man. He found a spot. He did found a spot. He didn't drive like this, but we all should fear his knees. We seen act up, and that limited him to under 50 games the last 5 years. And that's why the Knicks are being careful with him, because even though he's sore, the Knicks are just holding him out. Held him out a couple of times now, but yeah, they're limiting his minutes, which are good. And if he's banged up, they're giving him the day off. They're giving him the game off, and that's it's you're protecting your investment. You got to, because if you have a player playing like that, you want to obviously have him for the long haul, and obviously short term, you just get him right. Guys are banged up, but yeah, they're protecting him. They're protecting him.
Yeah, and I think once Mitch comes back, it'll kind of help with that. If you got to give Cat some rest, obviously Mitch is not going to come in here and start shooting threes or anything like that. But it does give you that rim defender, and he can impact the game in other ways. So, Mitch, come back. We need you too.
Yeah. So shout out to Cat, man. Big Bodega, Karl Anthony Towns, Big Bodega.
How many nicknames does he have? Big Purr?
Big Purr, Big Bodega. Meow. Oh, man. OG Anunoby, contested dunks, 171, dunks, 45. Leads all non-bigs in both. So, Anunoby's playing absolutely
amazing.
Yeah. He's awesome. So, yeah, I mean, look. Pistons game, look. I was upset, Chris. I was upset. Defense has to improve, obviously, but it happens. I still see a lot of dubs on the horizon, man. I still do.
Yeah,
I know Toronto. The next game versus Toronto, RJ is probably going to go off for 35, 10, and 10.
I was just gonna ask you. We're gonna see. You mentioned OG Anunoby. We're gonna see OG Anunoby matching up with RJ Barrett. Who comes out on top in that matchup? It's a double revenge game.
RJ's probably going to want to go off in that game. And he's been playing well. Shout out to RJ, man.
Hey, RJ's been doing his thing out there.
He has, but this will be the first time Anunoby is going to play in Toronto. Last year he was hurt. Yep. So, yeah, no Quickly. Karl Anthony Towns and Payne are questionable, right? So, hey, you got to win. You go in there, the Raptors are, a losing team. But, hey, I mean, these emotional games where Barrett's going to want to show out the Knicks, you just got to play a team effort and go out there and win. It should be a fun game. But I think OG's going to have an absolutely incredible game, especially in Toronto. And they loved him out there, and he loved Toronto. And, another thing, is getting lost because we're talking about the Pistons game so much. Prior to the Pistons game, the vibe seemed to be back, right?
Yeah.
OG Anunoby grabbing the mic, Cat joking around with him, Cat changing on the sidelines, and the Knicks kind of huddling around Cat. It's little things like that where it's like, okay, this team is starting to build chemistry. Yeah. And you love to see that. So.
Yeah. And even in light of the Detroit game, that's why I think it's also important that they, mentioned what they mentioned. They acknowledged the flaws, and I have no doubt this team is working towards fixing those things. Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight, but I got that feeling too that the vibes are coming back. Are they fully there? The way that we felt them last year, not quite, but you're starting to see signs that that's where it's heading towards.
Yes, indeed. All right, so. Trivia time, Chris.
Let's do it.
Those of you just joining, appreciate every single one of you in here rocking with us. The squad is in the chat. Always appreciate the guys in the chat supporting Knicks Nation. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Apple, Spotify, give us a review. We're also on there as well. It really helps us out on there on the audio side. Every week, Chris and I do trivia. I lost last week, 2 weeks ago, last week. I'm upset. So I got a question for you, Chris. Jalen Brunson currently averages 7.656 assists per game. Who was the last Knicks point guard to average more than 8 assists per game? Is it A, Mark Jackson? Is it B, Chris Duhon? Is it C, Stephon Marbury? Or is it D, Raymond Felton?
That's a good question.
Don't be looking it up, man.
I know it's not C because I feel like Stephon Marbury wasn't passing to nobody. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I can rule out C. Chris Duhon, man, he did. I know he had that big assist game, but I'm trying to think of the whole. I know Mark Jackson was dishing it a lot.
He was dishing that thing, man.
And then Raymond Felton, I feel like I can scratch that.
Mark Jackson is actually the Knicks' all-time assist leader at 868.
Man.
Wait, no. Let me do a career total.
I'm leaning towards
Mark Jackson
Mark
has 4,005 assists. Excuse me.
You know what? I'm gonna go with Mark Jackson. A.
You're gonna go with A?
Final answer. Yes. Mark Jackson.
All right. You're gonna go with A, Mark Jackson. So Mark Jackson was not the answer. He actually had a season where he averaged 10.5 assists per game, but he wasn't the last Knick to average over 8 assists per game.
Oh man.
You know.
Was it Chris Duhon?
No, it was Raymond freaking
Oh man, I ruled him out early too. Damn.
Raymond Felton averaged 9 assists per game in a season. Only 54 games, but still. It was Raymond Felton. It was the last Knick point guard to average more than 8 assists per game in a season.
Ah, man. Shout out to Raymond Felton, man.
We saw him at the Knicks had an alumni night.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. They got all the guys out there. Everyone came out. Here's the picture. Once a Knick, always a Knick.
That's a dope pick right there.
You saw Raymond Felton out there. No Melo, though. No Melo out there.
That was kind of, especially with JR being out there. You had Ray Felton out there. A lot of that squad was out there. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was a 2010-2011 season. Raymond Felton played 54 games. He averaged 17 points and 9 assists for the New York Knicks.
Damn.
Balling.
Shout out to Ray Felton, man.
Yo, Raymond Felton was,
He did his thing.
He did his thing, man. He did his thing. That's for sure, especially in that season, man. But yeah, the alumni came out. This was a dope thing that the New York Knicks put together. The number one question was, where was Carmelo Anthony? I don't know, but I saw on Twitter that the number one question was being asked is, where was Melo? Where was Melo? But you know, it's great to see these guys out there. J.R. Smith, like you said, was out there, and Steve Novak, Wilson Chandler, Chris Duhon was out there. No, I don't think so. But yeah, it was dope thing that the Knicks put together. So yeah, Chris, anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, man, I want the Knicks defense to get better. Obviously, everybody does, but you know, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about where the Knicks are at. You know, and I think things are going to obviously get better on the defensive end. And I just want our guys to get healthy. You know.
That's it, man. Hopefully the guys can get healthy. As obviously, guys are in and out the lineup. Dorcasaurus says Precious was a Raptor too. Yeah, Precious Achua had that big dunk in Toronto last year. If you guys don't remember that one, but that should be fun. Look, just go out there and win the game. I'm expecting another Knicks victory, and hopefully this can lead to another winning streak for the squad. And, we can get things rolling again. Hopefully Cat can get out there. But this was a good conversation. Once again, subscribe if you haven't done so already. I think we touched on a lot, Chris. Touched on a lot tonight. This was fun.
Had a good time. And as always, let's go Knicks.
Let's go Knicks. Don't forget to join the Discord in the description. And just Knicks. Let's go. Win at Toronto. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. All right, guys. I'm Anthony from Knicks Nation.
I'm Chris.
Catch you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.